Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the FHS Tiger Times Sports Talk podcast with me and David. Back at it again to talk more March Madness after the first weekend of games. We sure had a great slate Thursday through Sunday, many upsets, many great games, and many storylines to talk about. So let's just get right into it. My bracket's busted. It's looking bad. How about yours, David?
My bracket is also very much busted, Alex. Purdue lost, Arizona lost. I didn't have Arizona going. I had Arizona going my Elite Eight, I believe. Purdue was in my championship game. Two tough blows. Um, as you heard last episode, Texas A&M was my Cinderella story this year, and they got blown out of the water by Penn State in the first round. Then after that, I was like, okay, maybe Penn State can make the run instead. Then they lose it, kind of a heartbreaker to Texas, honestly.
Definitely.
But like I was talking about last episode, there's been a 7 seed or lower in quite a lot of Final Fours recently. So, and the ones left, I'm thinking Michigan State might be able to do that. Arkansas might be able to do that. But we're talking about more of that later. In the first round, I had Drake and Kent State both beating IU and Miami.
Me too.
IU and Miami both took care of business. I did predict the Virginia loss, though. We both talked about that. I had Marquette losing the second round, and I had Creighton in my Sweet 16. Those are three of my best picks so far. How about you, Alex?
Yeah, I'm more the same with you. Let me pull up my bracket real quick. I didn't like A&M too much, but I did have them being Penn State, which kind of sucked. I forgot to switch my pick from Iowa State. I said Mississippi State was going to win in the first four. That didn't happen. They got really, really close. Missed that corner three, but I wish I would have switched that pick. Iowa State didn't score for like the first 10 minutes, but
yeah,
they
I
got
still
close.
had Pitt beating them.
Yeah. I picked Oral Roberts to go to the Sweet 16.
Oof.
Duke was just too much.
Yeah.
Same thing. Oral Roberts did not score for the first 10 minutes almost, and Duke just boat raced him out of that game. I had Memphis over FAU, some questionable officiating down the stretch. But if you're Memphis, you shouldn't turn that ball over. You had the ball up one. You got to figure out, if you're Penny Hardaway, you had to have something to prevent that from happening. Princeton versus Arizona stung. We already talked about that. I lost the first game, Maryland, West Virginia. I just love how they put an 8-9 game. 8-9 games is the first game of the tournament, just to say, we're going to knock out half your brackets.
Pretty much.
So that was definitely not the greatest. But yeah, just some teams that just fell flat. I think we'll start with Furman, Virginia. Kihei Clark, it was a smart idea, in my opinion. It wasn't the smartest play. Tony Bennett should have called timeout. But for Kihei Clark, that's something you're sometimes told to do. Just that Furman got the ball back, they made the shot, and they made the next round. But let's talk the biggest upset. Let's just get straight into it. Purdue versus Fairleigh Dickinson. Talk me through it, David.
Yeah, so Fairleigh Dickinson, it was pretty back and forth in the first half, which honestly a lot of 16-1s are for the most part. I mean, the 16 seed comes out strong, and the 1 seed is just like not expecting it. So when it was like a 1-point game at halftime, I think in Fairleigh Dickinson's favor, I'm pretty sure. But I mean, that was a surprise. But I mean, for the most part, a lot of first halves are relatively close for the 116 games.
Yeah, it was expected that Purdue was going to pull away in the second half.
Yeah,
but they just didn't.
Fairleigh Dickinson pulled away in the second half. I'm pretty sure they led just about that whole second half.
Almost, yeah. Purdue made a little run there, but FDU took it right back.
And with both Princeton and Fairleigh Dickinson, the first 15 seed to ever win a game in the men's March Madness was Richmond over Syracuse in 1991. And from 1991 to 2011, there was just four 15 or 16 seed victories, all 15 seed back then. It was Richmond over Syracuse in 1991, Santa Clara over Arizona in 1993, Coppin State over South Carolina in 1997, and Hampton over Iowa State in 2001.
Yeah, and then there was a 11-year drought, 11 years where no 15 or 16, for that matter, upset. But then, talk me through from 2012 to 2023.
Yeah, so pretty much in the past 10 years, there have been 12 victories. 2012 that saw 2 15 seeds win with Norfolk State over Missouri and Lehigh over Duke. 2013 saw the first 15 seed make the Sweet 16 with Florida Gulf Coast also known as Dunk City, with Georgetown beating Georgetown and San Diego State. 2016 saw Middle Tennessee State beat Michigan State. 2018 saw the first 16 seed win, as everyone knows, with UMBC over Virginia. And then here's where it really picks up. In the past 3 years, Oral Roberts goes to the Sweet 16, beating Ohio State and Florida. 2022, St. Peter's goes to the Elite Eight, beating Kentucky, Murray State, and Purdue. And then this year, Princeton beats Arizona, Missouri, goes to the Sweet 16. Third straight year where a 15 seed made the Sweet 16. And then this year, obviously, 2023, Fairleigh Dixon beats Purdue in their opening round and gave FAU all they had.
Definitely. This was no fluke, Tobin Anderson's team.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about Tobin Anderson since we are here. What a story it is for Tobin Anderson. He bounced around coaching in D2 and D3 since 1999 at Clarkson, Hamilton, and most recently St. Thomas Aquinas. He gets this FDU job after they won just 4 games last season. He makes the tournament, even though, like we talked about last episode, Merrimack won that conference championship.
They did.
And we were saying how they should have been here, which objectively they should have. They won their conference bid, but Tobin Anderson proved that his team deserved to be here just as much, with the biggest upset in March Madness history as 23-point underdogs against Purdue, and they demolished Texas Southern in the play-in game.
Definitely.
Which they played in 3 games, won 2 of them, and I'm not sure the exact number, but I do know both teams and conferences get paid per game they appear in. So this FDU team playing in 3 games and winning 2 of them will be big for their budget next season and their conference as a whole.
Definitely.
But he was at St. Thomas Aquinas last year. He brought, I think, 3 of his starters with him to FDU. I think the biggest one, not in size, but just in talent, Dimitri Robinson, 5'8", 165, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and a block against the tallest team in Purdue. And then he was electric against FAU, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. Tell me a little bit more about Dimitri Robinson, if you can, Alex.
I really don't know too much about him, but the dude just went off, and really the whole team in general. When I watched that Purdue game, that team was fighting. There was a sense of urgency. I don't know if it was Roberts, but someone got up for a block late in that game. He jumped up and smacked it down. I was like, there's no way he blocks that shot. And then he blocked it. And yeah, FDU is the shortest team in the nation, 363 per the advanced KenPom rankings. Purdue is the tallest. So for Matt Painter, it really felt like Matt Painter and the team did not study enough film before the game. They walked in saying, oh, we're playing a 16 seed. It's only happened once. It's not going to happen to us. And that just didn't happen. There was times in the first half where Purdue went down low to Edey, and it worked. He was dunking it down. I'm like, why does not do that every play? And he can't do it every play, of course. But when their guards were struggling to make threes, when Lawyer and Gillis and them just were not hitting shots, it was like, even if FDU was double-teaming Edey, you got to tell Edey, you got to say, hey, they're going to double-team you. Just work through it and
Just
make it happen.
go up with it. I mean, he had a great game still. He was 22 and like 9 rebounds or something, but
but then his supporting cast just did not show up. So for Purdue, they're not going to fire Painter. You know, I bet there's probably some Purdue fans that wish they would, but next year Matt Painter has to figure it out in March.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for Purdue fans, it's quite sad. For IU fans, it's also quite sad. I guess we'll talk about that game next.
We'll talk about it a little bit later, but
Let's talk about it later, yeah.
As we're on the 16 seed, there was a couple questions on Twitter and a couple other social medias about if Giannis could go on a 16 seed and win a championship in March. And I think that's an obvious yes. But my question is, who is the worst NBA player that could go on a 16 seed and win a March Madness championship? And I'm not talking going on Fairleigh Dixon, just an average 16 seed. Who do you think is the worst NBA player that could help a 16 seed single-handedly win a championship?
I think a taller player with maybe an 8 out of 10 talent rating, something like Joel Embiid or Anthony Davis. I think Giannis could have definitely, but college basketball is still a team game. I feel like if there's an NBA player that's kind of just average, there is a huge skill gap, but I think you need a guy that is maybe an all-star to really win 6 games in a row. How about you, David?
Um, my thing about this is obviously it has to be a taller guy. It can't be. I mean, Kyrie Irving at 6'1" or whatever isn't going to come in and help him all the way to the championship.
Definitely.
So it needs to be someone who can rebound, like, and score. Like, it needs to be someone who can do it all. So I was thinking like tall guards pretty much. And the first one that came to mind, funny enough, was prime Baron Davis. So like not Baron Davis right now, he's old and out of the league, but I'm talking like 2010, 2011 Baron Davis, maybe even before that. I don't know. I don't really have any reasoning, but I'm just thinking someone who can score the ball a lot and is pretty tall. But let's continue with the more upsets in round one. So we have FDU over Purdue and Princeton over Arizona, like I said. And FAU over Memphis. We talked about that a little bit. Pitt over Iowa State. Penn State over Texas A&M. Some other upsets: Furman over Virginia, like we talked about, and Auburn over Iowa.
I think Auburn over Iowa, if we can talk about that game for a bit, wasn't too much of an upset. And, I doubted this Auburn team, and I have to say sorry for that. Wendell Green Jr., they have great pieces, and Bruce Pearl is a great coach.
No.
And they came out against an Iowa team that I said did not have a good defense, and they got the job done. So I'll go from Auburn to Iowa to the round of 32 real quick. Let's talk about Arkansas versus Kansas. Eric Musselman takes his Arkansas Razorbacks to the Sweet 16 for the 3rd time in a row. I think it's his 4th time. He did it once with Nevada.
Yep.
And it was a great game, too. A close game. Bill Self was out. But shout out to the Razorbacks for going the distance. And in that game, let me see if I can pull up some stats here.
Yeah, I'm already looking at that, Alex.
Uh-huh.
Arkansas, they beat their regional 1 seed in back-to-back years, and that's only the 4th time a team has done that. I think most recently it was actually Butler when they went back-to-back Final Fours. They were the last team to beat their regional 1 seed in back-to-back years, like I said. So quite the impressive run for an Arkansas team that we both doubted, I think, because they had a bad stretch of SEC play. And
I said they couldn't hit free throws and they couldn't hit threes, but they did enough of that in their game to
yeah,
get past
and
Kansas.
they've just shown effort. And like I said, Arkansas could be a team that continues to win and continues this Cinderella run, honestly.
Yep, they'll play UConn next, which will be a tough game, but
Yeah.
if anything's possible, I mean, Eric Musselman, I think he did get Arkansas to the Elite Eight in 2020 when they faced Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts gave them a good scare, of course, but yeah, do not doubt this Arkansas team against UConn. Can it make the Final Four? Yes. Is it going to happen in that stacked West Regional that we talked about? I'll give it a maybe. Maybe a 20-30% chance, but crazier things have happened.
And while we're talking about Cinderellas, really the only Cinderellas, even just quote unquote, the true Cinderella left is Princeton in the Sweet 16, like we talked about, beating Arizona and then honestly destroying Missouri.
Yeah, they just got hot from the field. They broke that Missouri press. They did everything right in that game.
Yeah, and then we have Michigan State, who beat 10 seed USC and then beat Marquette also in the second round. Like I said, I was pretty low on Marquette. They had a great regular season, but they're a young team, and Shaka Smart just cannot really win in March. Ever since he took VCU to the Final Four, he's had so much talent with Texas, didn't really do much with them. And he's had talent with Marquette, as you've seen on this roster, but he just can't win in March for some reason. And then Arkansas beating Illinois and beating Kansas. And then Creighton beating NC State and honestly beating up on Baylor. The final score ended close, but they ran the tables of Baylor for just about that whole game. They really couldn't miss a shot.
Yeah. Going back to Michigan State, I'm looking at this regional right here, and I think Michigan State might have a good chance to win out and be a 7 seed Final Four because they got help from FDU, they got help from FAU. It's now K-State, Michigan State in the bottom at that game, and then FAU versus Tennessee. K-State almost had an upset bid against Kentucky. I'm so sad my Wildcats could not pull it out, but I'm not too worried. It was a good game.
Yep.
Antonio Reeves just couldn't hit shots. Sheboy had 25 rebounds in the first game against Providence,
Yeah.
so it's a step in the right direction. But yeah, K-State, Marquise Noel went off though.
He was insane.
We could not stop him. I was watching that game.
I saw he's the first player to have 40 points and 20 assists before Sweet 16 since John Morant. He was just electric.
Definitely.
And before we move on, talked about some of the upsets in round one. Let's talk about the teams that survived the upsets, Alex. Xavier and Kennesaw State. Xavier gutted out a 72-67 win. Like we said last episode, Kennesaw State played up to the competition, and they gave Xavier all they had. And they even led by 13 with 10 minutes left. I'm not sure if you watched, Alex, but
I did catch the second half, yes.
Yeah. Xavier went on a 24-6 run to end the game. Just brutal to watch Kennesaw State honestly collapse like that. But, I mean, Abdur Rahim said it in his post-game press conference. He was saying this was the finale of a 4-year process. Not necessarily saying he's going to leave or anything, but more of just he came with a 1-28 season 4 years ago, and he had a senior heavy team that went through all of that adversity with him, and it would have been awesome to see them make a run, but Xavier ended up on top.
Yeah, Chuck and the guys in the studio after that game were talking about it, how Abdur Rahim took the team, and I think it might have been Kenny that said it, but imagine how hard it is to go into a kid's house for a recruiting visit and say, hey, right now we're 1-28, and convince them to come and play for you and go through that slow process. Yep. The fact that Abdur Rahim has dug into that deep Atlanta talent and made this happen is such a good story. And they were saying that, this isn't going to be the end-all, be-all. Sure, they'll graduate some kids, but expect Kennesaw State to maybe come around again and maybe give it another shot sometime soon.
Yeah, another team that survived an upset bid was Miami over Drake. And honestly, Drake played a great game against Miami. They made Miami play to their game. Mm-hmm. Darnell Brody had 20 points, 9 rebounds, held Miami to just 63 points when they averaged 80 points per game. Nigel Pack scored 21. Norchid Omir scored 12. Wuga Poplar scored 15, which they all stepped up because Drake shut down Isaiah Wong, which I'm assuming was their game plan. He had 5 points, 1 of 10 from the field. Just everyone else stepped up, and it was kind of just a tough draw for Drake, I guess.
Yeah, so in that game, Miami versus Drake, I watched it second half as well. Drake was playing their game for a long period of time, but Tucker DeVries, who was supposed to be the best player, could not make a shot. He went 1 of 12 from the field, 1 of 10 from 3, and there's a stat that you have on your list here about how teams went a combined 30% from the 3-point line in March Madness.
Yeah.
Because the 3-point is worth more than 2, and so many teams take 3-point shots nowadays, it is crucial that you at least hit 30 to 40%. 30 is the low benchmark, but if you can hit 40 to 50%, it's just going to give you such an edge. So when your best player comes out shooting 1 of 10, that's just giving away possessions.
Yeah.
So when Drake stalled on offense, much like the Xavier Kennesaw State game, Miami just played their game and used their talent to ride it through and make it to the round of 32.
Yeah. Next team that survived upset, TCU versus Arizona State in the first round, 70-70. Probably one of the best games of the tournament. It was a shame that it tipped off at like 10:55 p.m. because, I didn't even watch much of it, but Arizona State was 50% from the field and 50% from 3. Still lost somehow. TCU got 26 points from Mike Miles Jr. and Jacoby Coles hit the game-winning floater with about 3 seconds left. Just a great game. I'm assuming you probably didn't watch much of it since it was so late, as I was saying.
I did not.
Yeah.
That was on Thursday night. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just continue to another Northwestern versus Boise State, 75-67. Another good game, but Boo Buie and Chase Aldridge combined for 42 points for Northwestern. Even though Boise State did have 4 starters over 12 points, pretty back and forth game, but Northwestern ended up pulling it out. Another team that survived the upset bid, San Diego State over Charleston, 63-57, a low-scoring game. San Diego State controlled it, they just couldn't really score, as we were saying with the low percentages. But San Diego State controlled that game. Not really much to it. They just couldn't really score on offense.
But San Diego State, past that, did fix their issues against Furman. They came out and they shot the ball well.
Yeah, they shot the ball well, which I will get to a little bit later. Another one, Creighton versus NC State in the first round. NC State really could not get anything going outside of Torquavion Smith with 32 points. But Ryan Kalkbrenner had 31 for Creighton, so it was just a back and forth game with them too. But Creighton pulled it out at the end.
That was a good one. There was a lot of just great plays throughout. But yeah, Creighton just pulled it out and got the dub.
Yeah, and then one more team who survived upset was Tennessee versus Louisiana in the first round. It was 58-55. Tennessee shot 25% from 3, and they led 30-19 at half. They had Louisiana playing the game they want, but somehow Louisiana won the second half 36-28. I mean, it was a close game. Tennessee almost choked that way, but now they're in the Sweet 16 somehow. I thought Duke would have easily beat them, but
yeah, Tennessee is so weird because when they play great teams, they come out and win games. They beat Alabama in their stretch where they lost like 3 out of 4.
Yep.
They beat some great teams in the non-conference, but against teams like Kentucky, they lost on buzzer beaters to Missouri and Vanderbilt. It is so weird. I don't get it. But yeah, so I mean, I guess if Tennessee's playing good teams through the rest of the rounds, they're gonna make the Final Four. Who knows? But yeah, Duke came out flat after just destroying Oral Roberts and John Shire, first-year coach.
Yep.
I think if I'm a Duke fan, I'm content with it. Am I happy with it? Maybe not, but I'm content with it.
Yeah, Duke still is a very young team, so I'm sure they'll be back to the regular Dukies we know soon enough.
Definitely.
But some round 2 games that were close to being upset. Texas versus Penn State. Me and you were talking about this. Penn State, after being lights out from the field, they shot sub 30% from the 3-point line against Texas, while Texas shot 50% from the field. Dylan Disu scored 28 points, 10 rebounds for Texas. Penn State, their no more Jake Funk and Jalen Pickett really couldn't get much going. Cameron Winter scored 16 points for them, but it was too little to get the upset bid.
Yeah, but shout out to Penn State, though. They turned it on late in the season and made a run for it. So if I'm a Penn State fan, I can't be mad about that.
Yeah, another Big Ten team losing in kind of heartbreaking fashion. 68-63, UCLA beating Northwestern. Northwestern was 40% from the field, and UCLA was near perfect. They shot 50% from the field, 40% from 3. Although Boo Buie had 18 points, Matt Nicholson had 17 points, 9 rebounds for Northwestern. Jamie Jaquez, I still don't know how to
Jaime Jaquez.
Jaime Jaquez, all right. But he is just insane. 24 points, 8 rebounds. Amari Bailey chipped in 14 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. I think UCLA is playing like one of the best teams in the country right now, Alex. I'm not sure how you feel about that, but
no, they had 2 good games in a row. Sure, their game against UCLA was close, but they played well. They just faced a good Northwestern team. I agree with that.
And then another close bid. Kansas State pulling out the win against Kentucky. Even though Kentucky was favored, but they're still the lower seed, so it still would be a seeding upset. Kansas State won 75-69. Oscar Shibwe, another monstrous game, 25 points, 18 rebounds. But like we said, Marquise Noel was just insane, 27 points, 9 assists, and he just had so many flashy passes on flash breaks. I'm assuming you watched all this game since you're a Kentucky fan, Alex. So.
Most of it. I was on work on Sunday, but there were parts where we weren't too busy, so I'd have my phone out and avoiding the customers. So, yeah. Kentucky tried pressing up on Kansas's guards, and it just didn't work. And then Cal stuck with it for a while, and then it didn't work. And then they kept it close. They were up 4 points with 4 minutes left, but just down the stretch, K-State took control of the game, made it happen. I sat in my car for 15 minutes. I didn't cry, but,
Tough loss.
yeah, tough loss. But like I said, Kentucky is heading in the right direction. It's a bit slower of a upward climb, but it's an upward climb. So I'm not too mad. Keep Cal in, recruit and develop. We got a great class coming in next year. We will be just fine.
Yeah, and then the last team to avoid the upset was Gonzaga and TCU late last night. 84-81, Gonzaga won. Another great game that TCU played. Drew Timme just had a masterclass, 28 points, 8 rebounds. He could hardly miss. Mike Miles had another great game. He gave it his all, 24 points, 4 assists. Again, it was so late. I couldn't really watch much of it, but just box score wise, a great game, and kind of a shame that TCU couldn't get some earlier games because it would have been really fun to watch a full game of theirs.
Definitely. Yeah. So in that regional, Gonzaga and UCLA will play each other next. I'm liking UCLA in that one, but I wouldn't count Gonzaga out. Everyone always says, oh my gosh, Gonzaga doesn't have it in them. Mark Few's teams always do this. But I think it's going to be a 4 or 5 point game, but we'll see.
Yeah, so talking about the Sweet 16, Alex, before we get to the matchups, I got some Sweet 16 breakdowns by various different categories, and I'm going to quiz you on them.
Okay.
So I want you to can't look anything up. So who are the 2 conferences with the most Sweet 16 teams?
It's the SEC and the Big Ten.
Big East. Big Ten only has one team out of their. I think it was they had the most selections, and they had one team make the Sweet
Michigan
16.
State, yeah, the Big East, because Xavier, Creighton, Marquette didn't make it. But yeah, I'm with you there.
So now it's mascots. There are 2 types of mascots that have the most teams in the Sweet 16. What are those type of mascots?
2 types of mascots. I'm thinking like the battle characters, like the Spartans and the Musketeers.
Yeah, Soldiers is number 1 with 3. There's another one with 3.
There's another one with 3. Is it wild animals, tigers, wildcats?
Yeah, it's just cats as a whole.
Cats
so
as a
that's
whole.
3.
I'll call that a half point for me because I didn't.
Yeah.
I got the first category right, but the second category I kind of half guessed it.
The other categories, there's 2 with birds, 2 with dogs, 1 with hogs, 1 with elephants, 1 with cattle, 1 with bears, and a natural disaster with the hurricanes.
Yeah, I looked through the mascots as a whole, and I'm like, there is a lot of soldiers, and there is a lot of weird mascots in this year's tournament.
And also a extinct Mesoamerican group of people with the Aztecs.
That's cool, though. That's cool. I love San Diego State's logos. They have some crazy football helmets.
Yeah, they have a great design with their in their stadium is a temple. I mean, it looks like a temple from the outside. It is
definitely
awesome. Now it's time zone. Which time zone has the most teams in the Sweet 16?
I'm gonna go Central Time.
Central Time is second with 6. There's first place has 7 teams.
Is it the Eastern Time Zone?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usual because stats show that the Eastern Time Zone and teams in the East have won the most tournaments. So I kind of extrapolated that, but I thought about the Central Time Zones, and I just thought, I don't know. Yeah, I guess 6 to 7, close enough.
So now it's transfers on the roster, excluding JUCO transfers. So, I'm actually not sure which team this is with the most transfers. Probably should have looked it up, but there's one team. So, who do you think? What's the amount of transfers that the most team has?
The team with the most transfers has
the number. I want the number of
number.
transfers.
I'm gonna go with 7.
It's 11 transfers. One team
man.
has 11 transfers. Like I said, I probably should have looked it up.
If you know it, please leave it in the comments.
Yeah. Then there's 3 teams with 6 transfers. 2 with 4, 4 with 3, 4 with 2, and only 2 teams with 0 transfers. So definitely goes to show just the NIL and transfer portal.
It's a changing game.
Yeah. Um, how many teams have a coach's son on the roster in the Sweet 16?
Well, Drake is not on it. I'm gonna go 3.
Yeah, 3 is right.
Ooh, I just guessed that. Not gonna lie to
Yeah.
you.
UConn had Hurley has his son on the roster. Izzo has his son on the roster with Michigan State, and Gonzaga and Mark Few has his son on the roster.
Very nice.
How many Sweet 16 teams were unranked in the AP ranking before the tournament?
I'm gonna go with 12.
No, four. Four
Oh
AP.
man,
4 were unranked.
that was a bad guess.
Yeah. That's all the trivia. All the trivia I have. But
That was fun. I should do that next time for you because that was fun.
yeah. So, now that we're on the Sweet 16, if you have it ready, what are some of your favorite Sweet 16 matchups, Alex?
Looking at it, I'm gonna like Alabama San Diego State to be a great game.
Yeah, I said
Alabama
that as well.
is handling business right now, but Maryland was a good team. But they're facing a San Diego State team that could definitely give them some trouble, and I think it's gonna make for a great matchup. It should be if it flows offensively, we should see a game in the 80s, maybe even 90s in points, and we always love to see that in March Madness.
Yeah. Alabama San Diego State is probably my favorite Sweet 16 matchup. It is offense versus defense. Alabama scores 83 points per game. San Diego State gives up 63. Someone has to fold, Alex.
Yeah.
San Diego State showed with Darian Trammell that he can show his range against Furman. They were able to score some points finally against Furman. And I think San Diego State can do just enough offensively to continue this, not necessarily Cinderella run, but I mean, it might just be once they're 5 seed in the Elite Eight. And like I said, I have them going to Final Four. I think you do too.
I liked your pick so much that I drank the Kool-Aid and I put it in.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And I think they can get it done against Alabama. Even though Brandon Miller did finally score some points against Maryland, and they've been dominant, I just think San Diego State might just have their number.
Yeah, if they catch Alabama on a bad day.
Yeah, San Diego State's also a veteran team. They're going to be on about a week's rest for the Sweet 16. It's going to be a great game, and I hope it's a good game for whoever wins. I just don't want to blow out this game. My second favorite matchup, Arkansas versus UConn. Both teams had rough stretches during the season. I think we talked about both of them last episode, but now both teams are looking like some of the best teams in the country again. Arkansas, with their win against Illinois, was pretty convincing and a great game they played against Kansas. UConn, they beat Iona pretty good, and then they beat up on St. Mary's. I got UConn winning this simply because I don't think Arkansas has anyone to guard Adama Sanogo, and UConn as a whole, they're just looking great again. Andre Jackson is their glue guy. He had, I think, like 7 points, 6 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists against St. Mary's. They have someone else back who they did not have like all season, who ended up lighting up St. Mary's from the 3-point line. And yeah, it'll be a tough game, and it's gonna be a good game, like I said. But I have UConn winning this one. Who's another one of your favorites?
One of my favorite games is I talked about just a bit earlier. Is going to be UCLA Gonzaga, and that's going to be a rematch from the 2021 Final Four, in which we saw that amazing buzzer beater game.
Yeah,
there is so much talent on both of these rosters. It's a 3-2 game. It sucks that it's so late at night.
What time is it?
It is going to be at. It's going to be hold up. It's going to be Thursday, 9:45 p.m. So if you're going to class on
I'll stay
Friday,
up for that.
Yeah, at this point, spring breaks the week after, like I said.
Yeah.
But no, so much talent in those games. Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell, the two players that were on the starting lineup, maybe I think for that game, are going to be.
Yeah.
They're going to see this and they're going to be like, we got to avenge that loss. It's going to be a great game. UCLA is favored on ESPN's little wheel of stats, 65.9% to 34.1. The
Yeah.
spread is only 1.5 points though, so expect
In
a
favor of
great
who?
game.
UCLA?
They favor UCLA,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, if I believe right, outside of Jalen Suggs, who hit that miraculous buzzer beater in Indianapolis, both teams just have just about the same rosters that they did a couple years ago during that game.
Yeah.
I know Drew Timmy is still doing Drew Timmy things, and he's a lot more mature now. He is playing some great basketball right now.
He's won 9 games in March Madness overall, which I don't think is a record, but it's getting up there.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that's a record quite yet, but yeah, it is going to be a good game. UCLA, like I said, is playing like I think the best team in the country right now. They're very efficient from the field, and they're still playing good defense even without their best defender, who averaged like 3 steals a game, who's out for the tournament. I think I have UCLA winning this one. I have it in my bracket, I know, but even now, I still think I do. My third favorite, because I assumed you were going to talk about UCLA, I have Creighton versus Princeton as my third favorite Sweet 16 game. And I think this could be the second straight year we see a 15 seed in the Elite Eight again.
Yeah, this Princeton team is no slouch.
Yeah, I mean, Creighton is a great team with great size and great shooting. They were a team who had a awful rough patch right at the start of conference play and the end of non-conference, but so they're a lot better than a 6 seed in reality. But Princeton has controlled the boards both against Arizona and Missouri, and they don't turn the ball over. I mean, they're an Ivy League team. No Ivy League team turns the ball over. And yes, Creighton has some great guard play, and Ryan Nembhard, who scored 30 points against Baylor, and they have Trey Alexander. And they also have Ryan Kalkbrenner, their 7'1" center who can shoot from half court. He's insane. But Caden Pierce from Princeton is awesome. He's the brother of Indianapolis Colts receiver Alec Pierce. He had 9 points, 16 rebounds, and a block against Missouri. I think he'll be able to handle Ryan Kalkbrenner just fine, even though he's a little bit smaller than Kalkbrenner. He's like 6'9", I think. Pierce is. And Princeton's backcourt is scrappy enough to contain Nembhard and Alexander. I really want to see another 15 seed in the Elite Eight. And also, as a Butler fan, I don't like Creighton at all. But my heart's saying Princeton, my brain's saying Creighton. I'm not sure who to pick, but for the fun of it, I'll pick Princeton because
everyone loves a good underdog.
Yeah, everyone loves a good underdog. And I mean, if Princeton had to pick who they're going to play, this Creighton team is the one they want to play. Creighton's probably the weakest of the teams outside of Princeton themselves, just because this Sweet 16 doesn't have a lot of low seeds in it. Do you have another Sweet 16 game you like, Alex?
I don't think so. I think those are the most. FAU Tennessee should be a good one. I think Tennessee will probably take care of business. But
I think Tennessee will do whatever they want with FAU. Honestly.
Yeah, I think their defense is just so good that even if they are a lesser opponent, I think Tennessee at this point, with how well they're playing, I think they make an Elite Eight.
Yeah.
K-State, Michigan State should be a pretty standard game. I like the game, but I don't think it has the formula, the fuel to be a all-time. They had to be the best, to be an all-time classic game compared to some of the other ones on this list. And then I think we've talked about most of them. Houston, Miami. And
Houston, Miami
Texas
should be a good game, honestly. Houston, I mean, Marcus Sasser, I mean, he looked like he was fully healthy again. Tremont Mark, him and Sasser combined for 48 against Auburn. Even though they nearly lost against Northern Kentucky, they were honestly without Sasser for that game pretty much. They bounced back against Auburn. I would assume they beat Miami, but Miami just embarrassed IU last night, which I love to see. Not the biggest IU fan, but Isaiah Wong and Nigel Pack, Miami is a team to be reckoned with, and they can. I think this game goes just shot for shot, honestly. In their game against IU, 85-69. Wong had 27 points, eight rebounds. Their center, Norter Amir, out rebounded Trace Jackson Davis 17-8. Yes, IU did not play a great game. Jalen Hood-Schifino played a lot of hero ball. He was 8 of 22 from the field, 3 of 11 from three, with all 3-point makes coming with the last 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah, he hit 3 in a row, and for a second there, it looked like IU was going to pull it out. But what happened is Miami sped up their offense and they broke IU's press. And if Miami can do that against Houston when they need to, it gives them a ace up their sleeve to help pull out that game.
Sure. If it's a close game with 5 minutes left, Miami, I think Miami would pull it out. But if Houston gets on them early, I'm not sure if Miami will be able to stick it out.
Yeah, be able to close that gap.
Then the last one, Xavier in Texas. Honestly, in terms of enjoyment, I'm not sure how entertaining this game will be because both teams are just kind of weird, honestly.
Yeah.
Xavier, they almost lost to Kennesaw State. They were beating up on Pittsburgh early, but Pittsburgh came back down 20 or something. So Xavier has come back big, and then they almost collapsed big. Texas, they handled Colgate, but then they almost lost to Penn State.
Yeah, that might be a goofy game.
I think it's going to be a very goofy game. Both teams have great players. I'm honestly not sure about Texas's roster off the top of my head, but Xavier has Sule Boom. He's a great guard. They also have Kunkel. He's a guard. He's great. They have a good center. But Texas has all those also. It should be a good game in terms of just it's a 3 seed versus a 2 seed, but I don't think it's going to be low scoring. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. It's going to be 63 to
60, 69, 74.
Yeah, it's going to be something weird.
But yeah, it'll be
a
March
fun.
Madness basketball.
Yeah, it's a March Madness basketball game, but I'm not looking forward to it, honestly.
Yeah,
just because I don't like either team. Also.
Yeah, there's not any locality or anything in it.
Yeah.
On that side.
And I think you touched on Tennessee and FAU already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That I think wraps up our Sweet 16.
Yeah. So we claimed our Final Four picks last episode. I had 2 right. Not 2 right, but I have 2 still alive with San Diego State and UCLA, and I'm sticking with those picks. But I'll add on Kansas State from the East. And I'll add Houston from the Midwest. Kansas State, they honestly, I think, got past their toughest competition with Kentucky, and now take on a Michigan State team who got hot, but they're still pretty average on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a great win against USC and a Shaka Smart-led Marquette team. We talked about all that. If Kansas State can get past Michigan State, they would then take on FAU or Tennessee, which is honestly 2 favorable matchups, I believe. So I'm going to go with Kansas State there. And then for Houston, Marcus Sasser is fully healthy, like I said. And which is his health being a question is why I didn't have them going this far in general. But he's shown he's fully capable of playing again. So fully healthy, I don't think many people are going to stop this Houston team, at least in that region. You got any updated picks, Alex?
Yeah, so I had SDSU and Houston. I'm going to stick with those picks because I like both of what we talked about against Bama and then against Creighton or Princeton. I think I am going to go with K-State as well. I don't like Tennessee. Not because I'm a Kentucky fan, just overall. FAU, I don't expect. And I think you're right, K-State just have favorable matchups. I'll talk about Houston real quick. Houston as well, they have, out of the 4 teams, it's probably the toughest region still left because you have 1-5-3-2. But out of all those teams, with a healthy Marcus Sasser, you're right, David. I think they could run the table the best.
Yeah.
But I think a Houston-Texas game in the Elite 8 would be pretty fun.
Yeah, or a Houston-Xavier, honestly.
Yeah, either one. But then down in the West, I like UCLA, so I'm going SDSU, K-State, Houston, UCLA, and I'm assuming that's what you have too.
Yeah, so kind of boring that there's not too much parity, but um, yeah,
It should make for some good matchups, and
yeah,
yeah, for such a for not a stranger, but for such a wildly parity year in March Madness, right now through analytics and what we think, it'll turn out to be not so parity Final Four. But if anything's proved this season, it's that parity happens. I've said parity 4 times now.
yeah,
But strange things happen,
yep.
and we could see some of the Cinderellas make a run to the Final Four. Is there any last thoughts? Any wrap ups?
Just quickly, I know we talked about all of them, but no explanation here. Gonna do rapid fire with my picks for Sweet 16, and I'm gonna want you to do the same, Alex.
I gotcha.
So, Alabama, San Diego State. I got San Diego State. Great defense, like I said. Creighton, Princeton. I'm gonna go Princeton just for the fun of it. FAU, Tennessee. I got Tennessee. Tennessee's just a great team. I mean, their defense is suffocating. Kansas State, Michigan State. Kansas State, like I said, Michigan State. Not the hardest route to the Sweet 16, not the easiest, but Kansas State has proved to be a good team. UCLA, Gonzaga, I have UCLA. I mean, like I said, probably playing like the best team in the country. UConn, Arkansas, I got UConn. Explained that previously. Xavier, Tennessee. Not Xavier, Tennessee. Xavier, Texas. Like I said, that's a goofy game. That's a silly game, but I'll go with Xavier. I think they have more upside. And Miami, Houston, I'll go with Houston.
Yeah, I'm liking most of that. I'll go SDSU in a close one over Bama. I'll go Creighton just to
Yeah.
contrast you. I think you'll go with heart, I'll go with mind.
Yep.
FAU, Tennessee. I want to pick FAU, but I think Tennessee gets it done. K-State, MSU. I got K-State. Houston, Miami. Miami's going to keep it close, but Houston's going to pull away, giving Houston by 6 or 8 in the end through free throws. I will go Texas against Xavier. Like you said, Xavier has more upside, but this Texas team is just really good. They've done it all year.
Yep.
And I will go, as a fan, I'm going to go UConn. I was going to say Arkansas because they're SEC and, conference should support conference, but I just see UConn winning this game. But props to Arkansas. I doubted them after we beat them. Great year for Eric Musselman.
It might end up being we're tying them again, and they end up in the Elite Eight, which I would not be surprised about whatsoever.
And at that point, I take back all criticisms of Arkansas. And then Gonzaga, UCLA. Gonzaga will keep it close. UCLA will make it happen. That is our rapid fire picks. Anything else?
I think that's about it. I'm excited for the Sweet 16 slate. I'm excited for the Elite Eight this weekend, and we should be back for another podcast episode talking about the Final Four and championship game, hopefully, right?
Probably next Monday before spring break gets gone.
Yeah, sounds good. So we'll see you next week. This has been Fisher's Sports Talk Show. Is that what we're calling it?
Yep, I think we'll call it Fisher Sports Talk for now.
Yeah.
We'll make revisions down the line.
Yeah.
I'm Alex Dewar. This is David Jacobs. So long.
Peace out.